Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to take a close look at one of my favorite boxes at this moment. It's called the Beelink GT King Pro Edition. The GT King line is one of those, let's say, best lines from Beelink that we can play some retro emulation with and do some other crazy things. The King is still the King, or is it not really the best box out there? So when it comes to specifications and chipsets, we do have like a lot of differences. So the S922X quad core is one we have seen before. This one is slightly different than the one we have seen in the GT King lineup. This thing comes with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, something that didn't change out in the last couple of models. But let's take a close look in the inside. The GT King Pro, I can say the name Pro itself is absolutely right for this, simply because the way how this looks. Unfortunately, we don't have this awesome light up eyes that we had with the previous model. That is something we don't have, but we do have a very nice metal housing. And the metal housing gives absolutely way better cooling performance that we're going to take a close look at in this video. Beside that, they didn't really change out a lot of things in the inside. So what you're going to get is your typical power supply that we have at all the Beelinks. There's also like a 12 volt, 2 amp or 24 watts. But there are a couple of reasons I really like this device. So let's talk about the connections and the options we're having here. So at the left side we're going to get ourselves 3.0 ports over here and the input for the micro SD card. But also at the right side we're going to get ourselves two 3.0 ports. At the front we're not going to get any special. The only thing you're going to see when I'm booting it up is a tiny LED over here. And at the back there we have like an on-off switch we didn't have with the GT King. Something I was really missing out. Because if you want to build this thing or turn it into an emulation beast with EmuELEC, you just have an on-off switch. Something you don't have with the original one. Input for power supply, the RG45 has been moved over here. An HDMI, and then we have like the optical out. And we do have like stereo out for left and right channel. The Beelink Pro comes with the Logic S922X chip. So basically it's 2 times an ARM Cortex A53 with 4 times ARM Cortex A73. So that's basically what you're going to get in the specification. The Mali G52 with 2 cores, and of course this one still runs on Android number 9. Nowadays, if you're looking at the G-Link King, yeah, we're going to get the same kind of interface. Here we can add some new shortcuts to our right, let's say, column. I must say I really like this system. Here you can select all of the applications you want to add over here. So let's choose RetroArch and all the other ones. And they are like located over here. You can also remove them. Here we do have like the settings options. Then we do have like the option to get into the apps itself by pressing this button. So it's very straightforward. I personally really like it. And then we have like, if you want to watch a pretty picture, you can do that over here. We have the browser. And then of course we have the Play Store. This is Android 9, so we still have like the older version Play Store. I personally really love it. It's more convenient to navigate, especially when using just a mouse and a keyboard like me. Let's take a close look with IDA64, because we also need to double check what is inside the box, because that can also be different when you put something on the box. Let's take a close look at the CPU. Like I mentioned before, we do have like the ARM Cortex A53 and the ARM Cortex A73 in here. Display, we have the Mali G52 in combination. Now it's set to screen resolution Full HD I'm using at this moment. Running on the Android version 9 Pi, and yet the device is rooted, so we do have the same problem with Netflix, so we cannot even install it. And if you can install it, we can also run it on 480p. The thing that I really like are the thermals, because this thing is not getting really hot. I also wanted to try something that I picked up a very long time ago, this thing called the Radiator Mini Fan. So this is basically an extra fan you can implement under your like Beelink or other Android box. Just slap this thing on the USB, and what you're going to get basically is the construction that we have like better cooling. So I'll give you like a quick example. So you plug this thing in one of your USB ports. Unfortunately you need to basically use one of them, and we only have like 3 of them. It just spins. There are some rubber pads on here. And when you're going to put on it, you will hear like some vibration. There's a little bit more noise. But let's look at the thermals now. Just for fun, I wanted to add the fan, and it will give you like a little bit of an advantage and a couple of Celsius. Not a big of a difference. But again, just wanted to try it. But if you want to use the Android box just for watching television or watching on YouTube, I must say it doesn't really disappoint here. Here we do see on 4K we do get like a very stable FPS, and we do have like an amazing, let's say, experience when it comes to watching some 4K videos. So already, like, that is something you don't get disappointed with. Take consideration it's a rooted device, so Netflix will not have the same support in 4K. Unfortunate, we did have some issues also installing it, so even if you're going to like sideload Netflix, we do have like the same problems with the previous GT Kings. So in that case, I think it's a big bummer, but for that, you can still watch them 4K on YouTube. When it comes to watching in 4K, the Pro is just a king when it comes to this. Nowadays we're having a lot of different boxes, so this is not really special anymore, but it's a really great feature that we don't have with the really cheap boxes that you can find in China. Also had a very good support for Android games, and the games were really smooth. But the GT King Pro, with this minor tweak, we even have some better performance with some games like the new Asphalt racing games. I just tried some Asphalt 9 just to see how it will perform. So for Android gaming, I think the GT King is absolutely a king. It's powerful enough to run most, let's say, more demanding games, but take consideration depending on what you're going to play. Asphalt 9 was just a random game I wanted to try out because I think it's a very cool game to play. But later on, if you want to, we can do some more testing with some different games just to see what can we actually download and what can we play on this. But what I've seen and what I tested so far, I can see like the GT King 2 doesn't really disappoint and does have like the option to play a lot of Android games on this thing. Views and one of my favorite games to test and play. So without any frame skipping, you can play up to 61 FPS. But I've noticed when you're going to, let's say, get into wild action with some shooting and explosions, you will see the frames absolutely dip into the 50s sometimes. Unfortunately, it's something that is unavoidable because the chip itself is not just powerful enough. Of course, if possible, we need to talk about the God of War situation. So with some frame skipping, we can able to play this thing on the GT King 2. But yeah, if you want to have like great performance, it's absolutely unavoidable again to like you need to implement frame skip because this thing is not powerful enough. And I think it's a little bit of a bummer because nowadays we have like so many like mini PCs with some Bottasera that can play this game actually pretty damn good. Because that would be like a very cool thing to do on the box. But already you can see like it dips up to 40-50 frames per second in the character selection screen. And unfortunately, when playing the game, it's not going to be any better. With this new GT King, I was hoping to get better performance overall when it comes to PlayStation 1, because we do have so many ways to play in original resolution. And in my opinion, this is not really like unplayable, but there's not the experience you want to have. So I went back to the menu, I just went to the video preference and just basically set it back to 1. And what you will see is that the game runs way better now. For the people who have no idea what I'm talking about basically, so when you're looking at the previous GT Kings and all the other Android boxes, you can play PlayStation 1 on the original resolution without any problems nowadays. And I mean like the S905, X3 and some other ones like run the PlayStation 1 pretty damn good. And unfortunately with the GT King I was hoping to get a better performance with this chip. And here we get the same performance like the previous models. With the Dream Emulator in combination with Full HD, we do have like an amazing performance with some Marvelous Capcom or Soul Calibur. But let's get into the PlayStation Portable because that's basically the most demanding that we can run on this. When it comes to the old school part, like the arcade, Neo Geo, 8-bit, 16-bit, it will run just fine. I think this is not a reason that you need to buy a Pro. It's just a really cool package when it comes to the Pro with the specs, and you can run a lot of games very decently. But some of these games you can run it on a very basic box. So that is not a reason to buy a Pro version. So it's more like what kind of games do you want to play with your box. If you only want to play the really old school stuff, you can basically buy a normal King or even a cheaper box that will run these games nowadays just as great like the Pro. So what I wanted to try is some Daytona with Sega Saturn, and with this system you can see we do have not like the perfect 60 FPS, so frame skip should basically like enable to get like a great performance and stable FPS. Again, if you don't really mind it and if you don't see the numbers, maybe you don't even notice it. So that is basically what you're going to get with Sega Saturn. It's a quite, let's say, difficult thing to emulate on a box like this. Even with newer chips, we're still going to get the same issues. Another thing I wanted to try is some Sonic R, just on the same emulator, the Yaba Shenshiro 2 Pro with the Sega Saturn, and I must say that we do get like similar results over here, and better said, like it even plays worse than Daytona, and that's a little bit of a bummer. I must say, like, I find Sonic more playable with lower FPS, but I personally really hate this game. But beside that point, yeah, we do get similar performance when you're looking at the previous models of the GT King. Another feature I really love is the EmuELEC upgrade. So what does this mean? It's very simple. You can just slap in an SD card, configure it and use EmuELEC, so make this thing an absolutely emulation beast when it comes for, let's say, retro gaming. This isn't a full tutorial about how to do this, I can make it if you want to. But nevertheless, I just wanted to give you like a quick update about it. I do mind, oh man, I got a dirty fingernail. Dirty fingernail, clean up with the SD card. You can do that like an extra feature, you know. But the thing is, I really love it. Like you can do so many cool things with it. And again, like you have two options. You use it like an Android box or put in some EmuELEC. Yeah. Installing EmuELEC is a very great addition to the GT King and the GT King Pro. But take in consideration that you need to have the right format or the right piece of software, because the chipset is slightly different with the King and the Pro. But when you're having it installed, you need to mess around and tinker with the settings. RetroArch need to be configured, and you need to add your games and all of the other stuff. But in general, it looks pretty cool, and it breaks up this device in something completely new that we can say this is just a retro pro monster. We have a lot of great support when it comes to these games, even the old school stuff like Atari, Commodore 64, but when you go to the arcade stuff, Sega Dreamcast, it will all run. Take consideration, it depends on what kind of core you're using, because that can make a big of a difference when it comes to some systems like Sega Dreamcast. Alright, so let's do a quick teardown. Let's remove the, or I already removed the freaking rubbery feet or the rubber strips. So that's basically what we did. And then we're going to like remove the 4 screws. Alright, so yeah, because Wicked's going to be naughty, it's going to open it up. Because this is a completely different construction. The other ones are all like full made of plastic, and then you just need to click it open. Okay, there we go. But the reason I also wanted to do in deconstruction, I just wanted to show you how this thing looks in the inside. At first you'll think everything is made out of metal. And maybe it is, but it is very thin material. So this is basically what we're going to get in the inside. The construction is way better in my opinion. So the reason why I really like it, so the bottom part is just one big gigantic passive cooled piece of material, and that is absolutely great. Here you can see we do have like some stuff going here, so we're going to clean it up, the thermal paste, and we're just going to be like putting it in a better condition than it already is, because like always this is dried out and that is not good. But overall, let's take a close look in the inside. Here you do see that we have like the GT King Pro logo in here. This is version 2.0, so it's not even like the first model they've released. Also it comes with the backup battery, they just double side taped it over here. Basic way to put it here. The downside I find with this is that you need to get yourself like a completely new one with a cable attached to it. And that is something I don't like, so if you want to replace it, it's going to be a lot of mumbo jumbo. Otherwise you have like a holder, you can just click in another one. So that's absolutely a downside to this. But the overall, let's say, experience when you're unboxing it, it feels so robust and so much better than all the other ones. But here you can see our friend, the S922X from EmuLogic. And then we have like the RAM chips that are basically getting in total of 4 GB. So the next thing that we're going to do is clean up this, oh man, this cleans it up because it's absolutely a mess. And the thermal paste, I don't know what's going on over here, but it is everywhere, so they didn't do a great job. But the thing is like, this, when you're looking at it like in the thermals, this is such a great way, and I wish they did it with every single GT King. But again, it will cost a lot of money creating this. It also explains maybe why this chip and also this combination with this case is slightly expensiver than the normal version. Alright, so everything has been cleaned up, so the next thing we're going to do is putting some thermal paste on the CPU or the chip itself, so it will get a better connection, because that helps out sometimes like huge when it comes to differences in thermal, what the hell are you doing? Thermal temperatures. Nevertheless, let's go. So does the GT King defeat the NVIDIA Shield? No, not really. But the thing is, I really love the Pro for what it is, especially when you're looking at the enclosure. There is only one thing I just want to look out for, and that is something you should know. So yeah, this is not déjà vu or a glitch in the YouTube matrix. No, I just actually have two of these things, and the reason why, because the first one I got, like, it stopped working. Like, if you Google it, there will be people having like the problem that it turns on, there is no signal on the HDMI. It's quite unfortunate, but when you're looking at them side by side, yeah, I think there is not a lot of difference. They didn't change out the LED at the front, that is something I've noticed. But beside that, I think the GT King Pro is still one of my favorite boxes. Let me know in the comments what kind of version you're using. Do you use the GT King or another brand? Let me know in the comments. I want to thank you for watching. Consider subscribing, hit that little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.